this is Talking Reds, but it is also the trends. And because we wanted to do another trends as Talking Reds and do something on Chiesa with Josh Williams, who loves Chiesa, by the way. Federico Chiesa is his favourite ever player from the way in which he's been talking about him. Because we want to do all of that and put it out for free, we decided to just throw all of this into Talking Reds. All the Talking Reds we're doing this summer are in association with NordVPN. So if you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, you're able to sign up for Nord at a much highly discounted rate and also get 4 months free and loads of ancillary stuff. More on that to come. So what we're going to talk about in this one is we're going to talk about, as we're doing on the trends this year, we're going to talk about Liverpool's game against, well, whoever it was this weekend, this time Brentford. Then we're going to talk about something else we've noticed in the Premier League that's grabbed some attention. But this time, as a one-off, we're also going to talk about Chiesa in the middle as well. But we will start off with Liverpool 2, Brentford 0. And in front of you now, you should be able to see Liverpool's pass network, the first 11. And a few things jumped out at me when I looked at it, Josh. The first one that really jumped out at me, just as a casual observation, because these are just averages over the course of 90 minutes. But they do both play 90 minutes, well, just about, in Gravenberch's case. But McAllister and Gravenberch, McAllister's actually deeper in terms of average position than Gravenberch. But I think we all widely view Gravenberch as the deepest line midfielder.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, it feels like the double pivot was kind of back in this game. That's visualised by the graphic there. Whereas in the first game, you know, we touched on it last week, didn't we? There was shades of 4-3-3 in there, so shows that we're flexible and stuff, and kind of offers an insight into what we need from our midfielders. Why do you think they might have looked at the double pivots in this one? Because of the way Brentford set up, because of the way in which they use it. We can see here the average position of Wissa, for instance, is that he is markedly deeper himself. You know, I think they're quite interested in what Brentford do. Do you think it was Brentford in mind why they thought, well, we'll build up with a 2 in front of the back 4? Yeah, well, I think that's Liverpool's go-to. I think Liverpool's fixed approach under Slot seems to be building with a back 4 and a midfield 2. I think against Ipswich the problem was they were pressing with a front 4. They cleared on their own work, it caused us problems. So second half we come out, we adjust, and it looks more 4-3-3 then because there are adjustments. I think going into the game against Brentford, same approach, but they just don't come with the same pressing scheme. So we don't need to adjust so much, so we just play with a midfield 2 the whole game and it works. Yeah, other thing to point out, most passes over the course of the game was Szoboszlai with 71, but second was Konate with 70, and there's been a bit of chat about Konate's ability to function in this side. He's going to have to pass the ball all the time. But when you break that down, he passes 12 times to Ryan Gravenberch, 12 times to Trent Alexander-Arnold, but also 12 times to Mo Salah. I think Konate, to me, looks so much more comfortable passing the ball when he's not trying to play little passes, but when he's punching it 15, 20 yards. That's where I think he looks to me like, yeah, he strikes the ball beautifully, strikes through it. I think it being less intricate doesn't mean it needs to be less accurate for Konate. Does that make sense? Yeah, and on top of that as well, I think under Klopp, there was times where Konate would attempt to do the kind of Virgil crossfield diagonal where he'd hit it in the direction of Diaz or someone like that and often lose the ball. I think in this case, it looks like he's playing a bit more, as I said, to his side and as you say, punching the ball through to Mo Salah and things like that. And I've been pleasantly surprised, to be honest, by how well he's coped so far, technically. He's moving it a long way, isn't he? I mean, I think Salah helps because Salah looks after the ball so well, makes sure he gets there first, sees if he can draw the foul, if not, do the touch. So don't get me wrong, it takes 2 to tango here where Konate is concerned. Salah is helping him. But I'm really impressed with the fact that he is able to sort of get Liverpool 15, 20, 25 yards further up the pitch just by hitting through it. Yeah, and it felt like Liverpool kind of targeted that side as well. Yeah. We used Salah a lot, you know, and I think he was up against Christopher Aya, was it? Yeah. So that seemed to be a weak point for them that we targeted. But overall, Liverpool's passing accuracy throughout the game, everybody involved, was very, very high. I'm sure you've seen the numbers on. Yeah, 92%. Luis Diaz didn't misplace one. Yeah. 100% passing accuracy from Luis Diaz forward. You know, you don't see that very often. So, you know, interesting stuff. Yeah, I think on that though, it's as much about sort of, obviously you've got to have the good technique to complete the pass, but it's as much about being in the position where A, the player expects, but also B, where he can reach you. You know, again, this is the key part of this. I thought Liverpool backed each other up really well during the game, is what I'm saying. In possession, out of possession, I thought there was a real sense that everyone knew who it was they needed to be close to, how to position themselves and make themselves available. Yeah, and Klopp's talked a lot about risk versus reward and things like that. He's mentioned that in the build-up to Jamie Carragher in an interview. So you said Klopp, not Slot. Did I say Klopp? Yeah, you Slot, did. Yeah, sorry. That's your third one. No. John did one the other day as well. I'm counting them. I'm seeing who makes the mistakes. I haven't done it yet, but I'm sure I will soon. I think that's my first. I think I'm right in saying that. So yeah, that's probably first of many, to be honest. But I can't remember what I was saying. No, you're saying the risk versus reward aspect. Risk versus reward. Yeah, and I think we're kind of getting to grips with that gradually. And this was probably a better example than the Ipswich game.
Yep, no, absolutely. So we'll move on and just sort of look, a couple of other things that caught the eye. We talked last time, Josh, we talked about where Liverpool are having the shots from. So this is Liverpool's entire shot map for the game against Brentford. 2.18 is the expected goals. They get 2 in there as well. I'm struck by that in terms of the number that you can see that are within around the 6-yard box. So if we look at the next one, this is it with set pieces taken out. So this is just from generalised open play. And the 2 greys on the edge of the 6-yard box are both blocked efforts. To me, obviously, StatsBomb is very clever in terms of how it rates the value of a shot, dependent on where the opposition players are. And they were very close. One of them's Jota, and I thought Jota would score in that moment. And instead, Nathan Collins gets a block in, as I think he does on a couple of others. Nathan Collins, I thought he played well.
Did you?
But what I like, though, is yet again, put the values to one side. I just like these locations. A lot of them within the width of the 6-yard box. A lot of them within effectively sort of 13, 14 yards. There's one just outside the penalty area. Salah scores from about 13 yards away from goal, 14 yards. I like these. This is yet again, it's another good shot map from a Liverpool point of view.
It is, yes, what you're working towards, and I think you'd probably want a little bit more red in there if you're being a bit more picky, you know, higher value shots and things like that, but they're all very sensible. Most of them are in the penalty box, apart from, I think that's one outside the penalty box. So good locations, and there's a few triangles in there again, which you know, illustrates through balls. So variety is what I'm getting at, you know, with that. Liverpool creating chances in lots of different ways, and ultimately just making us really difficult to defend against.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But what's better is this is Brentford's shot map. That's all of Brentford's attempts that you can see there, a value of 0.47. But again, if we take out set pieces, it's 0.19. It's those 4 efforts. That is picture book what you want for a home game.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, print it out and put it on your wall, mate. That's exactly what you want. It's art. It's exactly what you want from a shot map when it comes to the opposition, because they're creating 1 or 2 shots every now and then, but they're all outside the box, and they're just not going in. You've got Alisson Becker in goal, so... And 2 of them are blocked. 2 of them Liverpool players right on top of. Exactly. I can remember one from Lewis Potter, where he beats Trent, sends Trent the wrong way and takes a shot. That was a half-decent attempt. I think that's probably the one just to the left of the
hexagon there, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, you know, they created virtually nothing, and that's why, for a lot of us, you know, in the ground, things like that, felt like a non-contest, and it was probably a quiet stadium compared to normal, but that was because of the lack of competition in the game.
Yep, they didn't even have a shot after the 55th minute either, which is also pretty good to see. This is last season. So last season, when Brentford come to Anfield, expected goals 1.42 in there. Take out the set pieces, 1.08. There's a rash of them in that left-hand side area, but there's also that Wissa one right on top of the goalkeeper in the 6-yard box. That is... It's not dreadful. Expected goals of 1 is not the worst thing in the world for a home game, but it is markedly different to what we've seen, and it's not like I think Brentford were any better or any worse shape around this game last season.
Yeah, it's just a little bit busier, and it kind of illustrates for me the difference between this current Liverpool side and that side. That side was just a bit more open, a bit more like, you know, the ball was a bit loose more often. And I said on my podcast this week actually that, like, it feels like so far, obviously we're only 2 games in, but in terms of that kind of historic threat down our right, where we just get constantly attacked there and create chances and that there, that's illustrated there by Brentford last season. It feels like we haven't really been attacked down that side yet. I feel like there was one moment where Liam Delap does Kwanzaa in the first game, and the Lewis Potter shot maybe, but other than that, Liverpool's, you know, season by season weakness hasn't really been highlighted yet, and that's testament to what we've been doing so far.
It's also worth saying that in the context of the fact that it was every side was trying to do that. I think you can say, well, it's only Ipswich, but you know, and it's only Brentford, and I'm happy to say it's only Brentford. I respect Brentford. I think they're a good club. I think they'll come about 12th. But the point being is that, but every side was having to go down there, and practically everyone was getting at least some joy at some point in the game. So there is the Delap effort. That is some joy, to be fair. But it is pretty much the only one. Even though there was Potter effort, he is on the edge of the box, if we're honest about it. He's not hitting the 6-yard box.
Yeah, but the difference is, compared to that last season, that's a lot busier, you know, in those kind of areas. So if you're getting rid of that weakness, it's going to be hard to attack Liverpool. Yeah, absolutely. Just for good order, this was Liverpool against Brentford last season as well. The shot map, again, a little less in there between the sticks, a little less in there from around the penalty spot, more from distance. Now, I think this was because around this time last season, there was a lot of question marks about Flecken. And it's worth saying, I think Liverpool were looking to test him a little bit. I think there was a bit of Brentford feeling as though he was no Raya. They were feeling a little bit vulnerable. I'm struck by how many of them are actually on target from Liverpool from around the edge of the area. And Jota actually gets one into the back of the net. And
it's a good effort, not a great effort, that Jota goal. So Liverpool had, it's worth saying, at times you can overstate a case. I think Liverpool had a match-specific plan for this game against Brentford last season, which was to test Flecken.
Well, I felt like this time around, Trent was testing him from the corner flag. Did you see that?
Yeah.
There was a few of them where he tries to score and Flecken's in goal. Van Dijk's all around, Flecken distracted him and that. So, you know, I think it was there again, but just a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think that Liverpool sometimes do have a view. Now, listen, we're going to do stuff that's just season so far, but we're partially going to set this up because we're going to do it as we go all the way through. XG difference inclusive at the minute. Liverpool's by far the strongest, second Manchester City. Arsenal are around the middle of that, but you'd expect that. They've just been to Villa Park. You know, they've had a tougher game than either Liverpool or Manchester City at this point. So I think you've got to roll with the punches on that one. Villa themselves, they've had West Ham away and Arsenal at home. They're around the middle as well. You'd expect that. My point is more Liverpool's XG difference inclusive from the two games against Ipswich and Brentford is exactly what it should be. That's what Manchester City's will be. That's what Arsenal's will be when we get sort of through the season, when they play two fixtures like that. And you want that to be at about 1.2 XG difference inclusive if you're going to be in and around the title conversation. It was for Liverpool last season as well. That's where it needs to be, but that's the way averages work. You go up at certain times, you drop down at another.
Well, it just means your attack's really busy and your defence is really quiet. And I think this season so far, the defence in particular has been very, very quiet. We haven't given away anything. And when it comes to securing results, if that's what your performance looks like, the result's just in a bag. You know, it's taking care of itself.
It's not going to look like that in...
It's not.
In 3 months. Let's just be crystal clear. It's not going to look like that in 3 months, but if it is around where Manchester City's is now, then it'll be in good nick. We'll go from there. Other thing I just wanted to point out as well, and again, opponents are a big deal in amongst this. Liverpool's XG per shot conceded at this point is remarkably low. I think that there is a bit of a fair comparison from Liverpool from previous seasons in this one. In that, to your point, there was always a capability for this side that it could just not concede many chances, but concede a good one. So again, this idea that so far there really hasn't been that good an opportunity for any opponents, seeing the XG per shot so low, Liverpool at the top there, Everton at the bottom, seeing that so low is a good thing.
Yeah, and it's no surprise that so far Alisson hasn't faced a 1v1. I think he's made 2 saves in total, and he's faced one big chance, and that one big chance was Brentford set piece. We know they're very good at set pieces. It's hard to kill that off for an entire game. So defensively, certainly in open play, especially Liverpool, just seems to be very difficult to penetrate, and that's what Slot was like at Feyenoord as well. It's worth saying. So far at least, he's been able to bring that playing style from the Eredivisie into the Premier League. You know, 2 games in, but it's healthy.
It is healthy indeed. Listen, we are here with NordVPN, and it is very, very good of them to sponsor Talking Reds through this run. If you need a VPN for any reason whatsoever, whether or not it's watching television from home in a place when you're on holiday, whether or not it is the idea of seeing overseas sporting events, whether or not it is in fact the idea just simply of having stronger internet online security. I've actually used mine this week and something's come up via the VPN, which has been really, really useful and reminds me of the importance of that security. So wherever it would be for, if you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, you'd obviously be supporting us a little bit because they are checking the numbers. They're online, for God's sake. They're much better than we are. The old e-commerce, the good people at NordVPN. So you'll be supporting us a little bit if you are looking for a VPN, but also just in general, I do use it. I have literally signed up off the back of it for 2 years and also got 4 months free as part of that process. So it's nordvpn.com/TAW. You can use it on up to 10 devices. As I say, there's other services that you can get in there as well through affiliates that will also be useful for your online security, things around passwords. It is the business, and we would like to thank them for supporting Talking Reds over the course of this, August and into September. I'll get the next little set of stats up, which is on Chiesa. I mean, I was joking before, but you are actually just a massive fan of the player, aren't you?
Yeah, you're not far off, to be fair. I just like forwards like that. I like very busy, active forwards who are doing a lot in the final third and doing the stuff that matters, you know, the stuff that, like, some forwards look really good, right, and they're very technical and easy on the eye, but the actual product is non-existent.
Yeah.
Chiesa is and Liverpool have been really good at picking up on these forwards over the years, you know, like a Jota who's just like Diaz, just really active and busy players and that, and Chiesa's another one of them, but he's kind of been depressed a little bit in Serie A. I think it's that kind of league, that kind of team. Juventus over the years have been a bit more tactical and strategic and not as offensive as Liverpool, and I think if you put him in the Liverpool side, I think he looks even better. Well,
I want to go through his positions played. We're going to just sort of build this as we go. So the first thing is his positions played. This is 2020-2021 in Serie A for Juventus. Gets some time at wing back, some time left and right midfield, which I think bodes well around the sense of, you know, the idea he's got a defensive responsibility and a mindset. A little bit left wing, a little bit right wing, but you can see that in there. That's 2021. You get to the injury early in 2022. So I've not worried about the 21-22 season. He only gets 13-14 games in there.
ACL.
The ACL hits. 22-23. It looks very much to me as though this is Juventus just trying to get him on the pitch here and there. Again, using him at wing back, using him in wide areas, using him at practically every position on the pitch. But for me, Josh, whilst he's trying to get his form of fitness back, but for me, this is actually a bit of a positive. This is a footballer who, you know, you look at it, he's practically played everywhere. Yeah. I'm looking at this, and as I say, not as a bad thing that a coach has looked at him and thought, well, we just need to get you back, but we'll use you, therefore, in a number of different roles in the meantime. It suggests to me that he's got a good football brain. Yeah,
and crucially though, on top of that, like I think, although they're kind of playing him everywhere to get minutes, you could argue his best two spots is not even there. Yeah. As in, like, his best two spots for me would be where Diaz has played for Liverpool or where Salah has played for Liverpool. And Juventus just haven't really played that system over the years, so he hasn't been able to play there. So, very versatile. And again, going back to what I said earlier, some players, you hear about them being versatile, they're actually not. Chiesa definitely is. You know, he's definitely got that to his game, and he's occupied some defensive roles over the years, which, as you say, bodes well for his defensive work rate and his understanding of what he needs to give his fullback.
Absolutely. Moving forward is last season in Serie A. Predominantly plays in attack up front, 19, just shy of 19, 90 minutes is in there as well. Still does bits and pieces elsewhere, but predominantly plays up front as you get through the whole of the campaign. So that's where he settled down for last season at least. Then I want to look at his radars through the 3 seasons that we've chosen, and there's one thing that will pop over and over. There's 2 different attacking midfield and winger radars right now on StatsBomb. There's the traditional one, which is this one we'll see first, then there's the newer one, which uses things like on-ball value a little bit more. But regardless, the thing that pops in this one, Josh, is that open play, XG assisted. To your point of him having output all the way through. Yeah. That is really, really important. He's got the pressure regains in there, but for me, it's the open play XG assisted that you go, all right, yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, he's got that creative element to his game, and that's why, you know, you ideally don't really want to see him back as a wing back and things like that. You want him in the final third to do things like that, and he can create those chances as well through dribbling and things, which we'll see on the next radar. As I think his dribbling OBV is really good.
Yeah, we'll move forward, and this is the second one, and this is where it really does begin to pop on the more, I want to say, modern sort of interpretation in there. You know, the shot OBV is really strong for him, XG is strong for him, pass on ball value is far better than the average for a winger or an attacking midfielder. His open play XG assisted far better than the average, and his dribble and carry well better than the average, which I think is noticeable. This is a footballer who's a front-footed footballer who wants to make the match happen.
Yeah, well, the dribble and carry OBV especially feels very slot. Based on what we've seen so far, he seems to want his wide players to be good 1v1. You know, he can maximise them opportunities where they're isolated with a fullback. You could argue Harvey Elliott hasn't really got that to his game, hence why he's maybe a bit more of a central player in this team under this coach. Chiesa feels to me like another natural fit for this manager, and that's visualised there by his numbers.
Absolutely. So we'll move forward and we'll see it again. This is in the season 22-23, so he's older, he's recovering from the injury. It's only 10.690, so it's important not to overstate. But again, the thing that pops, absolutely massively pops, is we're back to that open play XG assisted. On this one, we move forward into the newer one. Again, it's not great because he's finding his form, finding his fitness, getting himself back. But again, the dribble and carry on ball value is better than the league average. The open play XG assisted is better than the league average. The pass on ball value is better than the league average. And this is when he's struggling.
Yeah, and to a certain extent as well, this is when he's literally playing everywhere and playing as a wing back at times and all that stuff.
No relationships.
So, exactly, yeah. He hasn't got his preferred spot on the pitch, hasn't got relationships with certain players. So you can only imagine what that could look like in a team like Liverpool, for example, where he's repeating similar movements every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. Move forward into last season. Now, last season he predominantly plays as a centre forward. We saw that before, but I wanted to keep the consistency of the right radar. So this is him, first and foremost on the more modern outlook radar, the 2.01. Just again, the same things just sort of go very, very well. I almost feel a little bit like, don't take the shot spin into account. He's playing further forward, but those 3 things, you know, wherever you're playing on the pitch, they're hugely valuable. Dribble and carry, open play assisted, pass OBV. He's doing all of that again, Josh. That's the footballer he is. I think that if there's one thing that you should take from these numbers, that I take from these numbers, is that tells you the nature of the player.
Exactly, and that's what you want to invest in, really. If you're buying a player for the final third, you want him to be creative, you want him to be a dribbler ideally, good at carrying the ball, good at getting you into the final third and stuff like that, and a valuable passer as well, and he's all of those things.
It's 26.190s as well last season. I understand why people have got injury concerns, but that's just in the league, that's just in Serie A. So he ends up with 33 appearances, but 26.190 minutes is over the course of those, whether he's substituted on or brought off over the course of games. That's a decent length of time. Now, what I would say is that the Premier League is just a more physically intense league. I think that's generally acknowledged. It's worth pointing that out. But the idea of this is his first proper full season recovering post the ACL injury, that's decent. I genuinely think it is worth saying that is a decent amount of football to have managed to have played. Yeah,
well, I said in the gutter, mate, that I think generally his injury is a little bit overplayed. I think before his big ACL injury, he plays something like 3,000 Serie A minutes every season for Fiorentina. He's come back there and posted that in his first full season since the injury, which is not too bad. That's more minutes, league minutes, I think, than Trent played last season.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at Liverpool's squad, only 5 Liverpool players played more than that. Alisson, Diaz, Virgil, Salah and McAllister, I think were the 5 off the top of my head. And if you think of what he's coming in to do in the prank he's coming in for, maybe he's going to be a bit of a backup to Salah. He's probably not going to play much more than that.
So I think you'd almost deal on. I think you'd deal on if we just do limited to league. If, for instance, I said to you right now, he's going to get 24 90s. If you see what I mean, that's going to be the sort of figure. So that works itself out at about 2,200 minutes off the top of my head. I go, yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I sort of feel a little bit like, well, then, if he's getting that much in that, then he'll be getting, effectively, 24 90s is effectively 2/3 of the league available minutes. If he gets 2/3 of the Champions League available minutes, 2/3 of the Domestic Cup available minutes, all in, as long as that's sort of along the line there, then, and then you've got Diaz getting X amount, you've got Jota getting X amount, Salah getting X amount, Nunez, Gakpo getting X amount. It just feels as though it's a way you can keep everyone fresh in a way, including your man himself.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the ACL. I think I don't want to say ignore it, you can't really ignore an ACL injury, but if you kind of remove that, his availability either side of it, I think has been better than the suggestion on the likes of Twitter and things like that. I think people are putting a bit too much on the availability thing, but listen, we'll see. The Premier League is a different beast.
It is indeed. We'll move forward and just look at his pressures. This is from that first season when he was playing wing back, so there's stuff back there. It's worth saying though, there's a lot of graft in this, Josh, and in fact we'll just run through the 3 of them relatively quickly. That's the first season. This is the more recent season when it was a bit broken up, his first season proper returning after the injury. And then this is the season that we've just gone. When he is playing left-hand side at centre-forward, I think that's quite a healthy pressure map for someone who's sort of playing left-hand side of centre-forward / left wing. There's a lot of activity there, but it's in the opponent's half, but it shows he's also prepared to work back.
Yeah, and a huge point on this as well, it's worth saying, this is Serie A, and this is Juventus. This is not historically a pressing league at all. I saw a recent video, actually, of Roma, De Rossi's Roma, trying to do the whole press baiting thing. And the opposition team was just literally staring at them, just not having it, just like sound, you know what I mean? So it's not the Premier League at all. So I think, as I said, if you put him in a Liverpool team, put him under Arne Slot or a Jurgen Klopp or someone like that, you see what he's really capable of when it comes to his pressing, because he's playing in a team, as I said, that's kind of depressing his numbers in that sense.
And we'll move forward to the shots. This is, again, 2021, so it goes back a few years. Expected 5.6, 8 goals in there. One of the things I quite like is he scores those big opportunities. I think that's important for him, but it's an overperformance on his expected goals. That's that year. We'll move forward. This was the broken up year. Expected goals 1.3, goals 2. All right, that happens from time to time. But also last season, 5.33 expected, gets 8 in the league by the end of the campaign, plus a penalty thrown in there. You've always got to be careful with expected goals over performance, but this is the sort of sustainable expected goals over performance. He might just be quite good at shooting.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he's a decent finisher. I wouldn't exaggerate too much on it, but I think he's a decent finisher. I think one recurring theme that you're going to see with him, looking at his shot locations and if Liverpool sign him, is he does like a pot shot. There's a bit too much blue usually on his shot maps, and that's just him seeing an opening, seeing a low value opportunity and having a go.
Backing himself, basically, backing his technique.
But again, what I would say on that, again, he's playing for Juventus, it's slightly different. I think if he plays for Liverpool, he'll just get in the box more, he'll get more valuable shots, more valuable opportunities, and I think his shot map will look healthier. So I think a lot of his pitfalls at Juve can be explained. I think there's a lot of context in there.
Okay, excellent stuff. Listen, there's this coming out on the 26th of September, and there's live events as well that we should be trying to get the tickets on sale for today. We won't get on sale today, Monday in Edinburgh. That is Monday the 23rd of September. But we will manage to get Thursday the 26th and Friday the 27th, Liverpool and Belfast. Liverpool 26th, Belfast 27th, for Transformer, which is the book I've written. This is all mildly embarrassing for me. So what I've been doing is going really over the top because it helps relax me. But I think it's really good, and it looks like this. This is what it will look like. I'll be really honest with you, this isn't the words I've written. This is another book at the minute because we've only got the jackets printed so far. So this is someone else's at the minute because, you know, they're not going to even be printed until the first week of September. This has all been a big crash job. Canongate, who published it, have been the absolute business. They've been great to work with all the way through. I'm delighted with where we've ended up. I'm recording the audio book at the minute, but please do buy it on hardback because I really do want it to chart very, very well. It's partially ego, it's partially needle. Some of these aren't necessarily positive emotions, but they're the ones I've got. So I would like you to buy it if you can do so. As I say, I am genuinely actually quite pleased with where it's ended up. I think it's a really, really good book and a good testament to what was 9 years of our life. So it will be out on the 26th of September. You can pre-order now, and there's the live events. We'll come back over them on this one into our look at something from the Premier League. So biggest game of the weekend, I think by some distance, Josh, was Aston Villa Arsenal.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was a game defined by Watkins' 2 misses. Do you think that's fair from what you saw in the match?
I agree.
I thought Villa played quite well in terms of the fact that I thought they had a keep Arsenal at arm's length plan, that they managed to keep in operation until 70 minutes. If they go 1-0 up, I'm of the view they wouldn't have lost the game. And that's fair?
Yeah. I think it was a game of moments, wasn't it?
It was. So Watkins is at the centre of these moments. So what I did was I had a little look at Watkins because he's always struck me. There's an eye thing that I wanted to sort of test. So this is everything he's done since he's been at Aston Villa, every shot. So he's 56.4 expected goals and he's on 56 goals. So this goes all the way back to the start of the 2021 season. Sorry, the 2020 season, 2020-2021. Every attempt. So it's 56 expected, 56 scored. There's penalties in there, but we'll not worry about them right now.
I love it when that happens, by the way.
Oh, it's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, it means you've got a decent model, to be fair. If you're expecting 56 goals and he scores 56, you're doing something right. You're
doing something right. So what I then looked at was every shot he's ever had that is better than 0.3 XG, because the 2 efforts he has against Arsenal are better than 0.3 XG. So for that, he's expected 24.7 and he scored 22. But that's his entire time at Villa. And I thought, well, there's been ups and downs during that period. He was a younger player, he's now matured. You never know, it could be a little bit different. The other thing I looked at, though, was I looked at what he does when it's between 0.1 XG and 0.3, which is this selection of shots, where he's expected at 20.6 and he scored 26. That's a good finisher. There's no argument with that. And people generally, Josh, do think that Watkins is a good finisher.
Yeah, well, that suggests to me that when it comes to a half chance, he puts them away. You know, he can put them away, and that's probably painted a picture of him to be that kind of player who can finish his chances and things like that. I always go back to the England one. No, the England one against... in
the final?
Yeah, in the
Spain.
final, yeah. Is it the final that he scored that in?
Yeah.
Is it, yeah?
Oh no, it's the semi-final. Sorry, it's the semi-final to get there. Sorry, it's the semi-final. Yeah.
But it is a half chance.
Palmer scores in the final,
and he absolutely takes it. Yeah.
And he drills it into the corner. It's a great finish. Yeah. It is the finish of a finisher.
Yeah, definitely.
It takes it early as well.
But at times, as we're going to see, when it's a bit more clear cut.
Well, it's fascinating to me. I want to sort of talk about the why, but I want to tell you the story first. Then we'll talk about the why. So this is the start of last season, all the way through to this game against Arsenal. Expected 17.9, 19 goals in total. Good finisher in there, no arguments. Then, from the start of last season until the game against Arsenal, his expected goals, when it's better than 0.3 XG, is 9.5 and his number of goals is 5.
Yeah.
And that's, for someone we're referring to as a good finisher, that is a bit of and also a mature player, that is a bit of a, good God.
Yeah.
Then you look the same period, expected goals again 0.1 to 0.3, 6.2, and he's banged 10. Now, you can just say it's a reversion to the mean over the course of all of this, but the fact that this is a pattern you see through his whole career, I just think is, of a good player, I wonder if there's something in the fact that he manages to make shots that are, I'm not saying that they're being inaccurately rated, but because of his pace and because of his technique, is he almost able to make those shot locations be more special for him. Does that make sense? Where he finds himself, players in front of him, what he does when he's got players in front of him, because we know StatsBomb take that into account. I just sort of wonder if he's got an intuitive technique that just, as I say, maybe it's because of the way he uses momentum, uses his body, that actually makes those chances almost to him be slightly higher rated than they would be to the average forward.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people. I was just thinking then, like, you know, how would you explain that? What would you put that down to? And I think a lot of people would probably put it down to mental. You know, he misses sitters because he bottles it or something like that. But I think in reality, it's probably more of a technical thing, maybe. Yeah. Where, like, when he gets a sitter, maybe it's something to do with his feet, sorting his feet out. I think he was definitely one of them against Arsenal, the one where he pulls wide. He dags it wide, basically an open goal almost. That one is definitely a feet thing, but. It's a difficult one to explain. It can just be one of them as well, but it does look like a trend though as well.
I wonder if it's, you know, Lacazette, for instance, was brilliant at that raised finish at the near post. Most strikers just couldn't do. You know, you see them every now and then. Aguero was good at them, Lacazette was good at them. I just wonder if he's good at this finish. You can see him in these areas here from sort of 12 yards out either side of the 6-yard box, especially on that right-hand channel. That is the one he scores for England. That idea of going across the goalkeeper with his right foot, pulling into that area, unbalancing the defender and going that way. I think you can see them in there. And I wonder if what these numbers are actually telling us is he's great at that finish. He's great at the slightly unlikely finish when you get pulled into that area that maybe you shouldn't score as many of that he does. That's something that he's really good at.
Well, I do think that happens. I think forwards do have kind of preferred situations that they're responsible for converting. Like, I always think Giroud was a brilliant first-time finisher.
Yeah.
Shooting with his first touch when the ball was usually a cutback or something, he'd always put them away. Ian Robben cutting in with his left and firing into the far corner, signature Ian Robben. So maybe Ollie Watkins is that kind of, you know, where it's just kind of just off centre almost, where it's kind of like you're on the width of you're on the corner of the 6-yard box, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And he's putting them away usually into the far corner, like he did with that England goal for him.
Yeah, I just wondered if he basically got, and that, you know, for instance, this will be the stuff that analysts are still looking at, almost like I'm beginning to say, or trying to say to defenders, it's easier said than done. Don't let him drag you into those areas. You think you might be putting him somewhere where it makes the shot a little bit less likely, but with his talents, this is something he's good at. This is him in general as a striker against the league average, and he pops, I would argue, on everything that matters. I'm not that interested in having a conversation about his possession adjusted pressures, where he's less than the league average, because I think if Unai Emery wants him to run more, he'll run more.
He will definitely run more.
100%. If Unai Emery wants him to run more, so that'll be in there. But the idea that he is just markedly better than the average in terms of touches in the box, XG per shot, XG, shots and shot on ball value, tells you that he's a very, very good player all the way through. This is him in comparison to Nunez, though, and this is over that same period of time. So Nunez is 25.990s, Watkins is 42 over this period since the start of last season, going into this in league games. This is one of those where Nunez is he's just wild in a number of ways, Josh, and I don't mean that as back to this Captain Chaos nonsense. What I mean is he almost just defies classification. The areas where he's exploding beyond a very good Ollie Watkins, I just think are mind-boggling.
Well, I think that would surprise quite a few supporters, though. I think a few supporters would expect Nunez to have a nothing, but when it comes to the likes of me, for example, who obviously uses the numbers and that, this is one of the reasons why I support him as often as I do. Because his underlying numbers, his performances, he's quite clearly doing a lot. He's quite clearly a handful. He's busy. He's not a ghost. You know, he's not a player who the game just passes by. I think there's elements of him that you have to accommodate tactically and things like that. And I don't think he's maybe as much of an all-rounder as Ollie Watkins. But in terms of doing things that matter and you know, being a handful, as I said, Nunez is, I mean, quite clearly doing a lot.
There's a couple of things in this for Nunez that I do want to touch on. The first one, which I think is the most startlingly excellent, is touches in the box. He's at 10.6, Watkins is 6.9. He's 99th percentile in Europe's top 5 leagues for touches in the box. That is, and that partially speaks volumes of the way in which he's been used, but the idea that he gets on the ball in the penalty area that often is, I think, just genuinely magnificent. I think it is something which, I think the rest of it you can hone. His XG per shot is lower than Watkins and it's lower than where we'd want it to be. We'll come on to that in a minute. His number of shots, therefore, isn't necessarily an inherent good because he's having sort of lower value shots, as we'll come on to. But the idea he can be that involved in the penalty area, you know, from everything we've seen so far, going back to what we talked about with that game against Brentford, Liverpool want to be in the penalty area.
Exactly.
He can get you and keep you in the penalty area.
Exactly. I think one of his best traits, I think, is probably his movement. I think sometimes it gets him to go offside a bit too often, which is a bit frustrating. But he's always on his toes. He's never standing still. He plays the game like he's had a bowl of creatine for breakfast. And you need that player in the penalty box because the penalty box is cluttered. There's not much space in there at all. He finds space in there. So I've always said with Núñez, keep him away from the ball, keep him away from the build-up. Let him finish the move because he's good enough to get into a spot where he can finish the move. The problem is the actual finish.
Yeah, but even his open play XG assistance really strong for Núñez as well. You can see that popping out there in the bottom right corner of the radar. This is Núñez, 0.1 to 0.3, where Watkins was overperforming. He's about par, 5.6 in the same period of time as Watkins, 5 goals in there. Núñez, again, when the chances are better, 6 expected, 4 in, needs to improve, no shadow of a doubt on that, especially if we're getting him in the penalty area for those ones. But for me, Josh, the big thing is the number of shots here. He's 62 shots from his 25 appearances outside the box with those low value ones. Watkins is 55, playing much more. They're even better group, the Watkins ones, the Núñez ones, the further out. This is the biggest challenge for the manager, going back to what we've talked about for that game against Brentford, is getting Núñez to have as many opportunities between the sticks as possible. Yeah,
just kind of refining his decision making a little bit maybe. He's always been a bit of a rough diamond for me that you need to polish almost, and I think we've saw that so far. I think that's potentially why Slot hasn't started his tenure with him as a starter. You know, he's used him sparingly from the bench so far. But it's going to be interesting to see how he works under this manager, because I do think you need to be pretty smart with your decision making to get a game for him.
It's been a special Talking Reds with NordVPN, with the trends. So we're doing this every single week through the season. After every single Premier League game, we'll be producing something like this. We did a review video yesterday as well, and we'll be amalgamating those two during the international breaks. This stuff with the numbers, and talking to Sean with the tactics board as well, and talking about where Liverpool are up to. It's on the Anfield Wrap all the way through the year. If you've been thinking of subscribing, at the minute, you know, it's going to be a big week of transfers, massive game against Manchester United. We all then get to have a breath and weigh up what we think so far of Arne Slot's regime, and then this all the way through the campaign in terms of a really deep dive analysis in association with StatsBomb as well, who are a fantastic partner and are a terrific stats provider. It's everything you need on the Anfield Wrap. Do consider subscribing. It's a pleasure to work with Josh on this stuff on a regular basis. It's great to have NordVPN. Ash O'Rourke has looked after this one behind the scenes on the cameras as well, as we've gone all the way through. I don't know who's going to have edited it, and I apologise because there was a lot in there, but you know what I mean. We'll all be all right in the end. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you later on.